Hi, and welcome to the myfreeactingclass.com lesson for Monday, September 28th. I am Michael Bean. Today we are going to be going over camera technique. I've got a couple of things that I want to show you, and then I also am going to show you some quick auditions for commercials, because we started talking about commercials last week, and there's still sort of more to explore there. And so I pulled some fun commercial scripts that we can play with. So let's start with camera technique, so instead of me going over my list, I'm going to show you a couple of lists made by casting directors. So in the last week, I received both of these, one from Jackie Lind, who's a casting director who we've had here as a guest, and one from Tiffany Mak, who we've also had as a guest. So Jackie Lind, here are her self-tape instructions. Right, because this project will be cast exclusively from self-tape, we have some specific requests, right? So a lot of her projects are being cast exclusively from self-tape at this point. Slate, she wants the full body slate at the beginning of the tape. Every casting director has slightly different requirements, but at this point, because they're doing so many self-tapes, they're also listing those requirements often in the posting that they send. Camera, as high a quality as possible. If shooting on your phone, be sure to shoot horizontally and not vertically. Ensure you're framed from the chest up, facing towards the camera. So that's what I'm in right now. If you are looking at me in the video, this is what's called a medium close-up, right? So from middle of the chest to the top of the head. And what I often see in self-tapes and elsewhere is somebody doing what is closer to a medium shot, because they're just more comfortable like this, or this is how they're used to sitting when they're talking to their friends, something like that. So where we're seeing from the top of the head down to about the waist. And what we want to see always in an audition is a medium close-up. I'm going to show you Candy's the recording of the active challenge from last week, and so we'll look at hers for a great example of somebody in a medium close-up with fantastic lighting. Let's continue looking at these requirements from casting director Jackie Lind. She casts a lot of Hallmark. She also casts a couple of different TV series. We can always look her up on IMDb if you want. Jackie Lind, Jackie Lind. You can look her up on IMDb if you want to multitask. Background, please have a neutral background with no furniture or decorations in frame. A solid blue or gray background is preferred, but not a deal breaker. If you must use a sheet, please ensure it is wrinkle-free. So that, to me, says that they would prefer that a blank wall to a wrinkly sheet. That suits my aesthetic preferences as well. But the basic idea is they just don't want to be distracted by what is behind you. They want to have their focus entirely on you. Lighting. Studio lights are preferred. Obviously, that's not going to happen for a self-tape. Natural light from windows and or ring lights can provide soft, even lighting. Please avoid harsh lighting and large shadows from lamps. Sound. No echoes, static, or distracting background noise. Ensure your reader is not louder than you are. Reader. We strongly request that your reader is a fellow actor. We understand that this may be difficult with COVID-19 restrictions, so if you don't live with an actor, we recommend you record with your reader over Zoom. Also, please don't record yourself as your reader. Use another actor to ensure we get your best, most natural performance. And then labeling and title cards. Okay, so something that I have been experimenting with recently with my auditions is I have been using a service that actually I had heard about just in the most sort of passing of ways from fellow actors, but then there was somebody in this lesson, Kevin, who joins us, talked about using a site called We Audition for readers. And so currently, the last couple of self-tapes, I've gone onto this website, which is weaudition.com. I think membership's $10 a month, and then I can log on here and go to, where are we? Readers, browse all readers. And these are all the people who are online right now and available to help with rehearsal or self-taping. Now, some of them, if I remember right, this guy, oh yeah, right. So they list their rates, and some of them list here that they're happy to do it just for the practice, and some of them have higher rates and some of them have lower rates, but basically just click on people and until you find somebody, you're like, yeah, sure, $2 for 15 minutes, And if you don't have a friend who can read with you by Zoom, there are always, in my experience, there have always been people there online who are available to read. So it's become, for me, it's a useful second option. You know, when I don't have a coach who I'm used to working with, or when I don't have, so when I don't have a coach who I'm used to working with or a friend who can read with me, then I will sometimes do that instead. So back to the instructions. So here's, you'll see that Tiffany's instructions are somewhat simpler here. Please slate with a full body, what you need to include slate. The audition should be medium close frame, landscape mode horizontal. The camera should be eye level to you, not shooting upwards or all we see are your nostrils. Right? Not meaning that's all they see literally, but that's all they're going to be distracted by. They're going to be like, oh my God, nostrils, instead of watching what you're doing. A face and upper body, chest and up clearly, eye line slightly off camera, right? So there's a couple of things in this that Jackie didn't include. Eye line slightly off camera, just one side or just the other. Camera at eye level, really important. They want it as a single file. If you have not experimented with the program Handbrake, highly recommend that you get familiar with the program Handbrake. It is a free program. I can devote a chunk of time to it, one of these lessons if that would be useful to you. But it's a program that you can use to stitch files together and make them smaller in size, and it's completely free. So that's the option I would recommend. Obviously, there are lots of options in terms of programs that do that. Currently, I'm a Mac user, and so I've been using iMovie and not Handbrake. And I find that iMovie can do all the things I need to do and lets me put in transitions and make it pretty. But I want to plug Handbrake because it's free, and you can use it from any kind of computer, and it doesn't cost you anything. So there we are. The other thing that I wanted to show you is, and hopefully I've already got it open, is this is from an open call from Nancy something casting. I've forgotten the name, but from big LA casting office that sent an open call to me because I run an acting school. And so they must have sent it out far and wide. Please be sure your phone camera is positioned horizontally. Make sure the camera is steady. Use a tripod if possible. If not, you just prop it on a stack of books and don't touch it. Your face is well lit. Film in a quiet area. Keep the background simple. And then they even included visuals. Position your phone horizontally. Now, because they're in LA and they're doing an open call, they're making this as crystal clear as they possibly can. They're like, no possibility for error. Close up, chest to top of head for audition scenes, right? So chest to the top of the head. That's what they want. They have wide shot and then medium shot. So this they'll usually use for slate, and this for the one they wanted a personality chat. So like, I'm just talking about things that are interesting. One of the commercials that I pulled for you today is one of those, and those are the worst. Like some people love them, but most people, if you go into an audition, they're like, hey, hi, Candy, welcome, come on in. Just tell us something fun about yourself. Most actors are like, so doing a little bit of prep for those could be useful. Now, let's take a look at Candy's self-tape after we just looked at sort of those requirements. And you'll see a lot of them are right here and present. So we've got neutral, non-distracting background. We've got her eye line is perhaps a little bit too far off camera, but it is, her eye line is near enough to the camera that we've got like a full view of her face. We're not seeing her ear. We've got a good light reflected in her eyes. You'll notice that she's louder than her reader is. I pulled a really beautiful reaction moment right in the middle because I thought this was fun.
Are you having an affair? Molly. Lex's mom has affairs all the time. You don't have Lex's mom. You have me.
Now, something that I want to point out, Kenny, especially because you've got such great eyes for camera. Like, I mean, they're so clear. That's what we're looking at anyway. But be careful about looking up. It is an absolutely normal thing for a human to do. It happens when people talk all the time. Unfortunately, on camera, because we're looking at your eyes all the time, we get this big swath of white under your eyes, and it is very unflattering. So I just wanted to point that out because it's not something that had come up yet. Sorry to pause on the unflattering thing instead of just being like, you did so great. But do you see that the raised eyebrow? Like, so she managed to, in her tape, find the balance of realism, talking like a real person, not projecting. She's not giving us more voice than she needs. Right? There's so many of these little technical things that come together to make a self-tape work. Yeah, I would say that next time you do one of these tapes, Candy, and this has come up with a number of people who've done these, just ask the reader to pick up the pace just a little bit. Okay, just so there's not quite as much space, right? If listening to your tape, I think it's the kind of thing where you do it, and the cast would say, "That's great. Now, just take the air out, or pick up the pace a little bit." And it's worth, if you are exploring this at home, doing one like that so that you can watch it back and go, okay, which one feels more like this is something from the movie? And I like having a couple of different versions, even if they're asking you to send one. I think finding a couple of different versions that work can be really helpful. So nice work. Thank you. And thanks for sending it in. It really does help to have a concrete example, right? Instead of just listing off these things and like, look at my lists. Instead, I can say, look at Candy. See, she's doing the hard thing and she's letting us talk about it. Okay, let's have some fun and look at some commercials, shall we? So, Caden, I know you want to do demos for me, don't you? Okay, great. I figured. Good. That's exactly what the enthusiasm that I like. So I'll show you a couple of commercial auditions. Maybe a fun kid one to start with, and then, like I said, I pulled one of these adult commercials that's like, just talk about yourself, and so I'll show you what the write-up looks like for that. Now, I don't know what they would do for a self-tape, but I suspect that if they wanted you just talking about yourself as an adult in a self-tape, they'd ask you to record something like that. So, interesting challenge. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is from a spot called Possessed Home. And Caden, let's see, you're going to read. Will you read boy number 1, and I'll read boy number 2? Okay, here it is. Title, Possessed Home. Remember that with commercials, they're formatted all differently, because they're made typically by ad agencies, and so they don't stick to sort of a standard script formatting. Open on a shot of a cul-de-sac where a home sits on a small hill. 2 boys are standing in the street with their bikes in front of the home.
They say strange things happening in that house where
when no one's home.
No one's home.
Like what? Leaving their bikes, the boys slowly creep up the home's walkway. Cut to a couple standing in line at an airport. The woman is looking at her phone. I'm going to make sure we locked up the house. Oh, turn on a light too. The woman touches her phone screen. Cut to a quick sequence of a door automatically locking, an alarm turning on, and a lamp turning on. Cut to a wide shot of the boys in front of the house as the garage doors begin closing. And this is supposed to be exactly. And the boys take off on their bikes. Cut to the boys' faces wide-eyed and screaming as they frantically pedal their bikes. Okay, so Caden, if you're standing up, then you start, just off in one corner of the frame, right? So you start a little bit further back. No. And you say, I hear strange, what is it? They say strange things happen in that house.
I hear strange things happen in that house.
And then you put the house on the other side of the camera. Right, so if that was you looking at me, exactly, right there beside the camera, and then you start slowly walking up to it, all cautious, like careful, so that we see in your body, they're like, what's going to happen, what's going to happen? And then suddenly, flick, 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 and the lights all turn on, and you freak out and scream and run away. Ah! And that's it. Super straightforward, right? So this is what most commercials are going to be like. So I'm using Caden as my example, but I often get this question, from I get the question a lot from parents where they're like, is my kid ready to audition for commercials? And it's like, can they do that? Yeah. Can they say one line and then go, ah, and run away? Right? Can they hold the thing, say 3 words and smile? Yeah, they're probably fine. They can audition for commercials. Then if we're going to look at this adult commercial here, so this is something that's been in my archive for quite some time. So nobody's going to be bothered by me sharing it with you. Right, they've got a non-standard form here for people to fill out. Suzanne de Pensier, who's not casting anymore, to the best of my knowledge. Details, 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 details. It's a store in the United Kingdom, details, details. And here we go, for the audition. You'll be brought in groups of 3. You'll slate your name only. Then I want you to look at the camera and tell people watching the tape something fun and interesting about yourself. Like what the hobbies are, what is the weirdest or funniest thing that ever happened to you or you did? Or something like, if you could spend a day with any famous person, living or dead, what would it be and why? Or if money were an object, what would you treat yourself to? I want it up, now, the note here, it says, be selfish for that one. I want it upbeat while giving your cash away with the cause of blah, 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 twinkle. You have so this is interesting because what it says is, because they actually give you information about how they want it to feel. So they've given you a whole bunch of ideas, but they haven't really said specifically what they want. And here I think is about as close as what they actually want when they ask you to say something about yourself. I want it upbeat. It doesn't put a twinkle in your eye. You know, right? So what they want is they want it upbeat. They want the twinkle in your eye. A very short joke if you wish, but keep it clean. Say whatever you think will make them see the fun in you. Okay, whatever you think will make them see the fun in you. So this is where it requires a certain amount of creativity because you've got to share something that delights you. Yeah, and it's not about the specifics. It's not about getting them to understand the story. It literally is about telling the story that makes you feel something like that. Does that make sense? So they want it upbeat. They want to see the twinkle. You know, they want it to be 30 seconds. And within those limitations, it can be anything because it's not really about whatever is coming out of your mouth. And that's where I think actors get hung up. They're like, oh, I've got to, because often they will even ask prompt questions that are not helpful. Like when kids come in, they'll say, what's your favorite subject in school? As though that's something that's going to make kids light up. You know, and every once in a while you get somebody who's like, yeah, I love school. But a lot of the time you just have to be creative and either ignore their prompts or take it into something that actually lights you up, because that's what they want when they ask a question like that. They just want to see something that lights you up. Hey, Dia, are you somewhere where you can talk? You know, because we've seen Candy and Caden already demoed for us, but if you're somewhere where you can talk, then we'd be happy to let you try. I'll take that as no. What about you, Candy? You want to give it a shot? So if they're like,
Sure.
so they're like, wow, you know, Candy, thanks so much for coming in. You know, just tell us anything about yourself. Go.
Well, I had a fudge business with my family, and I'm starting another business with my family. We're house cleaning. So
Good.
that's a couple things.
Fudge business. So you're doing a classic improv thing.
Entrepreneur.
You've got a great idea. You've got like a really specific fun thing, and then you move away from it to start a new totally specific fun thing, and then you end with a totally different specific thing. You know, so so one anecdote, one thing, 30 seconds, something to light you up. So like, I had a fudge business, and then tell me anything about the fudge business, because like I don't know anything about a fudge business, you know, and it's
Okay.
it's funny, like, and
Yeah.
totally unique to you. So you try again and just give me 30 seconds of like fudge business. See if
Okay.
you can. And I know that it's really normal to look up when you're looking into your memory. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is train your body to look down when you're thinking.
Okay.
Just because it's, like I said, just because it's more flattering. You know, or if you can stay connected, and that may be something that comes with time and more practice. So Candy, come on in. Thanks for coming. Blah 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 blah. And you're Slade, and then they're like, "Now tell us something about yourself." Go.
Well, I had a fudge business for 2.5 years, and I sold peanut butter and chocolate fudge, and honestly, it's better than C's.
Right.
And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and so maybe her fudge business anecdote is the thing, that Candy continues to play with. She's like, okay, wow, that was like kind of awkward to do in class, but it felt even a little bit easier the second time. And then you give yourself a couple of prompts when you're thinking about it, like, the weird thing about fudge is, or what you'd never guess about fudge, or what most people don't know about fudge is, right? Like anything that is like that you think is delightful, oh man, this one time we were making fudge and, right? Anything that brings you delight and makes you laugh is likely to be successful for something like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was just thinking, I'm like, yeah, they would, when they'd hear my name, they'd be like, that's not your name. Like, but it is.
Oh, of course.
I sell fudge. So.
Yeah, see, and that's like, it's there's some like shyness and it's a little bit embarrassed, but it is very much Candy, being delighted, and that's what her sort of being sparkly and delighted looks like. And so that's a perfect example. Thank you so much for again sort of being brave and letting us use you for practice.
Sure.
So I can show you one more of these commercial auditions. Let me see if I can find, so last week we looked at one that had last week we looked at one that had a storyboard, where there was a visual, like, this, kind of frame by frame. We haven't looked at one that's got a side by side. So yeah, so let's look at this. It's another formatting that is sort of very normal for, and we won't press Dia to give us audio, but Caden, do you want to read one of the characters here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You're the teen daughter, and you get to say, "Mom, this is Larry," and then Candy, you get to be the mom, and you get to disqualify each person. Oh, something that I said to Candy when I looked at her tape was, I was like, wow, I expected you to tape for the mom, not the teen daughter. And Candy was like, I can't picture myself as a mom. And I just want to put it out there that for a variety of reasons, most of which have to do with problematic things about image culture and patriarchy, women in film and TV are often cast considerably younger than their character's age. My friend Julie Passwald, when she was 25, maybe even a little bit less, was cast as the mother of 3, the oldest of whom was 11. Right, and that was in a CBC show. That wasn't even a CW show. So just throwing it out there that if you are, of course, for the Actors Challenge, you should do whatever you want. I mean, you had a really fun take on that character. If you are called in for a real audition, don't ever disqualify yourself based on anything it says in the breakdown. They have so many people to choose from every time you get a real audition that if they're calling you, they want to see you. And somewhere along the line, somebody might have decided that they want to see it older or younger, or taller or shorter, or any variation of the ers that is you, despite what it says in the breakdown. And I know too many actors, myself included, who've looked at something and said, oh, I'm not, the one I turned down recently, maybe 6 months ago, I looked at it and I'm like, I'm not burly. Burly? They want somebody burly. I'm the opposite of burly. And I turned it down. And then, of course, afterwards, my own words showed up in my head and I was like, they wanted burly plus Michael Biehn as an option. Yeah, and every time you get a chance to do that, then you actually, I think, have a better chance of booking those because you are an interesting version of the story just by being you, right? Burly, 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 burly. Hey, who's that guy? Something different. And you have to do less work to be that way. So throwing it out there. All right. So side by side. So we've got the visual on the left and the script on the right. You'll sometimes see these for voiceover auditions as well. So I have never spoken to somebody who writes for animation, so I don't know if this is a normal format for animation, but you will see this for commercials. Cut to post-select woman at her home. It's late in the morning. She's eating Dayton Raised Post cereal, reading the paper. Daughter says, behind her new boyfriend walks in with knapsack, is very attractive and clean cut, but mom barely looks up as her daughter speaks.
Mom, this is Larry.
White socks?
Good, but disqualifying, like, nah.
No. White socks?
Good, say, nah.
Nah.
Now say, White Sox like you said that.
White socks?
Cut to another day with another attractive jock-type boyfriend as mom eats blueberry post-selects.
Mama's boy.
Cut to another day with another good-looking boyfriend as mom eats cranberry post-selects.
Definitely not that one.
Announcer, post-selects, the most selective people pack the most select nuts and real fruits into every box, blah, blah, blah. So just so you've seen one of these side-by-side ones. And so that we got to hear Candy shoot down Caden a couple of times in a row, just for fun. White Sox, nah. And I couldn't resist. As a teacher, I try never to give line readings because what often happens then is somebody will copy you, and so if you're supporting somebody else, I know, Caden, that sometimes your dad will listen in on these. So Caden's dad, if you're listening, Caden's probably just still young enough that you could say it like me, and he actually can't copy the details. He'll still say it like him regardless. But then sometime around about age 8 for most actors, and then from there on forever, if you say it like me, you'll just get a bad copy of the way you say it instead of their version of it. And so Candy or Dia, or anybody who's watching the tape, if you are supporting somebody else, I strongly recommend this tool that you heard me use with Candy, which is, okay, here's something, short, emotionally charged thing I'm going to give you. Right, say this thing. Great. Now, once you've got that, now say the line like you said that. So then I can help give you a lead emotionally, but I'm not saying, and here's how to say this line. Then often people will find something creative that's theirs. All right, it's 4:31. That was today's lesson on commercials. Thank you so much, all three of you, for showing up. And Kenny, thanks so much for being brave and doing a couple of different uncomfortable things today. That's maybe I'll end with a fantastic quote by Julia Cameron, whose book, The Artist's Way, I cannot recommend enough. The Artist's Way, love it. I found it in 2015, kind of later in my life. And it has informed my creative practice every day. Her name is Julia Cameron. But one of the quotes of hers that I really like is, you cannot get better and look good both at the same time. You can't. And that's my son sticking his fingers in you at the end. Come here, you. Okay. That's the end of our lesson for today. I'm being poked aggressively.
Hello.
Bye, everyone.